What you want to do? What you want to do? What you want to do? What you want to do?
These people
What you
need to
want to
go.
do? What you want to 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 do?
These people
What
need
you
to
want to
go.
do? What you want to 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 do?
Listen, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth. And I want to talk about the airport life, the airport hustle, and how to win the airport game. Yes, the airport industry is a game. As you guys saw in the clip, the pilot, yes, the pilot who cares about nobody but himself. The pilot doesn't care about somebody that's working above wing. And let's break it down. When you are on the ramp, you're below wing. That's the best job to have because you're not dealing with these entitled people, disrespectful people, people with anxiety, people freaking out that they're going to miss their flight. You eliminate all of that when you work below the wing. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons of working below the wing and above the wing. This guy right here, this ticket gate agent, he's above the wing. Now, a lot of people, they apply for these jobs, and I'm the type of person, I just love peace. And I used to work for the airlines. I worked for a company back in the day, and I put in my 2 weeks notice. But before I put in my 2 weeks notice, I was on the ramp and I lived a stress-free life. And I'm gonna say this again, I lived a stress-free life working a part-time job at the airport. Now, another great thing about working below the ramp is you could work seasonal positions. When I was working at my job, I was only working 1 week out of the month, and I was able to travel for 3 other weeks. So always make sure if you get your foot, because it's all about literally get your foot in the door. If you get your foot in the door, then what you could do is transfer. They do bid it within the inside. And this guy right here, I have to make this video because see, I love this content on Mark the Mentor because it's a little different. Sometimes I talk about the same thing on different channels, but at the same time, it's going to be from a different view, a different point of view. But this guy right here, listen, in order to make it in the airline industry, I'm going to tell you how hard it is. And the only reason I got a job working for the airline industry was because my neighbor, he thought I was selling drugs. And what happened is later on, he got a chance to know me. He got a chance to talk to me. I don't know for sure, but I had a feeling it was him. Long story short, because when I first moved in, the guy that was helping me move in, he saw him and he was like, listen, I'll keep an eye on him. You feel me? So at the end of the day, long story short, he was an aircraft mechanic. And he was like, what you like to do? I was like, man, one day I like to travel the world. He was like, well, I'm an aircraft mechanic. I know the station manager, all ramp agents above wing and below wing, they have station managers. So he said, I know the station manager. I could get you a job. It was just that easy. I literally walked into it. 9 out of 10 people who work at the airport, some people have to fight for it, but some people literally walk right into it because they have family members. Or in my case, I was next door neighbor with the snitcher mechanic. Yes, I said it. The snitcher mechanic let it breathe. So the snitcher mechanic, he went, talked to the station manager, came in, got the job. I started right away. Now, with that being said, this situation that is happening, this is above the wing. And a lot of people love this job. I don't know why they love this job. Listen, you cannot be social with rich people with bad attitudes. And I'm going to say this again, not everybody at the airport traveling is rich, but at the end of the day, since the beginning of time, the people that were able to travel the world always have money and always were affluent. You guys have to understand, in Brazil, a lot of people, especially in the favelas, they're not just packing up the bags for the favelas and hopping on a first class flight. It's not happening. So with that being said, in America, the best thing about working for the airport is it gives you an opportunity to do what rich people do on a regular. You're not going to be rich financially because the airport does not pay like that. The airport pays in benefits. The airport does not pay in pay. You're probably thinking, Mr. Keep It Simple, how do you win the game? Easy. You make money online and then you go to the airport established. And I'm going to say this again. You make money first, or you get your foot in the door first, but you still have something on the side that's going to make you money, because you could have unlimited flight benefits, but if you don't have unlimited money, at the end of the day, what are you going to do? And then when you fly, you travel, you fly standby. So if there are no seats available, you don't get on a flight. So before you get an airport job, first things first, make sure you have good credit just in case you have to buy a ticket out of pocket. Because once you travel the world, guess what? You got to come back to work. Unless you're seasonal, and everybody's not seasonal. The people above the wing, most of them are not seasonal. So with that being said, always make sure you have good credit in case you got to buy a ticket out of pocket. Let it breathe. Now, this is the ramp right here. This is what they do. They just unload bags off of the airplane. And at the end of the day, when they need time off, it's easy to get time off when you work for the ramp. The guy above wing, he's going through it. If he was on the ramp, he would have never been in that situation. I want you guys to understand the pros and the cons. Now, what's the cons of working on the ramp? Listen, the cons of working on the ramp is, listen, if you run in front of that engine before somebody tell you to put the chocks under the tires because you got to chock the tires, that engine will actually suck you up. Pause. So at the end of the day, what's the problems with working on a ramp? The ramp is highly dangerous. You are right in front of a jet. You ever talk about jet blast? If you stand behind of any plane with jet blast, that's it. That's your ASS. Let it breathe. You guys have to understand. But a ramp agent, if you work seasonal and you're not there all the time, that's the best position to be in. Yes, I said it. That's the best position. Get the seasonal position. Don't stay there full time because the ramp is dangerous and a lot of things do happen on the ramp. And a lot of people who are outside on the ramp, they're exposed to all weather conditions and they're exposed to whatever they're spraying in the air. They're exposed to that. Let it breathe. Now, going back to the original point of the video was the guy said, who are you talking to? He started unbuttoning his shirt. And I want to talk about this. If you don't have it, if you didn't have it easy like myself and many other family members who work for the airport, some people literally had to go through, man, tough times, uphill battles to get the interview. Some people apply for the airport over 60 to 70 times just for an interview, just to tell them no. You guys have to understand, in order to work for the airport, they actually did a survey. They said it's easier to get into Harvard than it is to work for the airline. And I'm going to say this again. They said it's easier to get into Harvard than it is to work for the airline industry. The airline industry is hard because everybody wants those flight benefits. And I don't care what nobody says. When it comes to the flight benefits, the best job that you could have is being on the ramp. Even a pilot has the biggest responsibility. If the plane goes down, he goes to prison. At the end of the day, and I'm going to say this again, he makes, what he makes. But if the plane goes down, he's going to prison. So the pilot job, he has a big responsibility. The people above wing, they have people coming disrespectful. And when I mean disrespectful, I mean straight dunk on you. Boom, shakalaka, disrespectful. And this guy, he did the right thing. No matter what job you have to stand up for yourself. He stood up for himself. And if a guy want to take it there, you got to let people know, man. But at the same time, I want to talk about being tricked out of your position. I felt this dude in this situation. And I just want to let you guys know, don't let people trick you out of your position. If you work for the airline industry, show up to work on time. If you went through all those interviews, if you went through all that training, why would you show up to work late? If you did what you had to do to work for the airline industry and you could travel the world off the courtesy of American, because that guy's an American agent, why would you let some random guy with a fishing hat on looking like an extra in Gilligan's Island, why would you let Mr. Gilligan come and ruin your life? Why would you let Mr. Gilligan come and ruin your flight benefits? Let me tell you guys something. Now, this right here is what you call walking the wing. This is why I took this picture. And look how the guy's an older guy. All he's doing is wing walking. This is actually a job. You could travel the world wing walking. Yes, you could travel the world wing walking. This is all I did. I did hop in the bin sometimes when I worked for that company, but for the most part, all I did was wing walk. What this old dude was doing, this is what I did. And I told the world, this is how I went to Bulgaria. This is how I went to these places before I did YouTube. So at the end of the day, all I did was a wing walker. This is the best job to have. Just walk the wing. The guy in the middle, in front of the plane, he's pushing it out. You don't even have to do that. All you gotta do is walk the wing. As a ramp agent, the less you know, the better off you are. And I'm gonna share this content with all people that want to sign up for ramp agents after listening to this video. If you want to become a ramp agent, put a 44 in the chat. But the less you know, the better off you are. And I'm gonna tell you, you know why? Because the more you know, the more training you have to do. And the more training you have to do, the more reoccurring training you have to do. The whole goal of working for the airline is to work for flight benefits. And when it's time to fly, you take off and leave whatever it is behind. But for that guy to get into it with a customer, I hope he didn't lose his job, because the airline industry is hard to come by. And at the end of the day, if you could fly to Tokyo, if you could fly to South Korea, and you could fly because of American Airlines, how could you let somebody randomly come up and steal your blessing? I want to talk about stealing blessings. Now, this right here is the signal they make when they want the plane to stop. I did this one time, just one time, but this wasn't my thing. But at the end of the day, I did this one time, just one time. I'm not gonna lie, I did it one time. But with that being said, he's making a signal for the airline, for the captain to stop. Right here, what you're doing in this position, and you're communicating with the pilot. The pilot can see you, you can see the pilot. It's so much logistics that goes on when you take a flight, but you guys don't realize it, because the airline industry, they do a great job running a beautiful circus. When I mean beautiful circus, it's a beautiful circus. From the time you check your bags, to the time you get your Starbucks, to the time you get your cocktails, to the time you get your chicken wings, you don't see what's going on. But on the ramp, these guys are some of the they are the Navy SEAL of the airport. Yes, they're the Navy SEAL of the airport. Every time you jet set, these people make sure your bags get on, and they make sure your bags don't get lost. If you arrive to a destination and your bag is cracked because a dude on the job doesn't realize how blessed he is to be a ramp agent, at the end of the day, it's because of him. If your bag is missing, it's because of these guys right here, ramp agents. A lot of people don't talk about ramp agents. You'll never see, oh, join the American airline industry for ramp agents. You can travel the world. They're not going to tell you. This is the biggest secret people don't want you to know. But you have below wing, which is better, and then you have above wing. But getting back to above wing, when you work above wing, this is going to happen. And the main thing about it is, while it was happening, the lady was like, oh, she wasn't even stopping and defending him. When you work for the airport, understand you're on your own. People that don't like you, the best thing that they will love, the best revenge for a person that don't like you, is to watch you lose your flight benefits. And I'm going to say this again. For people who don't like you, they're crossing your fingers. Listen, the airline industry is like a show called Power. If 50 Cent was smart, he should do a show called The Ramp Agents. If anybody was smart, but it's hard to do, because at the end of the day, you got to go through TSA, you got to go through security, you can't get back there. But at the end of the day, it will be like the best documentary, The Ramp Agents. The ramp agents, they don't see the customers, but when you're above wings, they see the customer. But getting back to the story, when you lose your job, people are happy because you can no longer travel the world on behalf of the company. Nothing in life is free. Let's put that out there. So when people talk about free flights, nothing in life is free, because as you saw above wing, you got to deal with guys with fisher hats. Below wing, you got to make sure that you don't get sucked up by an engine, because it's a good chance that you can get sucked up by an engine if you run out in front of that engine. Now, the guy in front of the jet, he will give a signal that the engine is turned off, and he will tell you to go under and chock it. But at the end of the day, if you move before he tells you to chock it, that is it. It's over. You're taking it off like a rocket. And I'm going to say this again. If you move before he say chock it, guess what? You're taking it off like a rocket. Jet blast. Boom, you're gone. Bases loaded. Bottom of the ninth. Strike three. You're out of here. So with that being said, listen, you need a clean criminal record. And if you got a clean criminal record, I suggest that every young man get a part-time job as a ramp agent. And to all older men in your 30s, get established, get your money up, and then become a ramp agent. And like I said, best part-time job I ever had in my life. And for this man to almost lose his flight benefits, I hope he didn't. Who knows? He probably could have. But guess what? The pilot didn't say anything, because most of those pilots, they walk with their head in the sky. They act like they're better than everybody. At the end of the day, I seen it. So the pilot, he didn't even say, man, stop, man, relax. They're going to get you. The pilot could have stepped in. The pilot could have said something. The pilot didn't say anything. You guys saw the video. If the pilot didn't say anything, if the pilot didn't do anything, put a 100 in the chat. The pilot didn't say anything. The pilot didn't do anything. And he had to hear it. So at the end of the day, the female, she didn't tell a guy step back. Guess what? If it was a black customer, guess what? They would have told, the female would have told him step back. The black man would have told him step back. But guess what? The fact that it's not a black customer, guess what? The female is not telling the guy that you're wrong. So what happens is now this man, he respects his manhood. This man he demands respect. And at the end of the day, as a man, you got to demand respect. But that's one thing about the airline industry. They hold those flight benefits over your head. And that's why I left the company that I was working for, because at the end of the day, they try to hold that stuff over your head. But listen, at the end of the day, just to get the experience, just to travel the world and see how it feels to just hop on a flight anytime you want to, hey, why not? But guess what? When you're out there, don't let nobody below wing trick you out of your position. And if you work above wing, or if you work in a flight attendant, and I just want to say shout out to all the flight attendants all around the world. You guys are great. You guys work so hard. You guys are amazing. You guys are really the big rock stars of the airline industry as well too. You're entertaining. You guys are just awesome. Shout out to all the flight attendants. Shout out to all the ticket agents. Shout out to everybody behind the scenes in the airline industry. Let it breathe.